So texts are great for that reminder when you first wake up, you get that text, or maybe a shift in mindset or perspective, or maybe a challenge. But if you want to go deeper, I'm not going to text you like, paragraphs of information. Obviously, it's going to be very annoying. So if you want to go deeper, I'm also making these private videos on YouTube where you just click the link like this, and only you can see this. Also, the first person on my TAT text team, Tess Brewer, during the week does a lot of research on these topics. So we have tons of information that I want to share with you. So if you want to go deeper, watch these videos. Again, like everything I do, super casual over clinical, unrehearsed, talking to you like I would be if you're sitting in front of me at a coffee shop. This week's topic is boundaries, and this will be an example of what these videos will be like. So what is a boundary? According to IPFW Parkview Assistant Program, a boundary is a limit of space between you and the other person, a clear place where you begin and the other person ends. I love that. The purpose of setting a boundary, a healthy boundary, is of course to protect and take care of yourself. So here's the thing: if you don't have the ability to draw boundaries, and many of us don't because it's a muscle that we have not practiced, right? So if you grew up where there was a lot of emotional abuse or people were invading your space constantly, you probably didn't have a lot of practice drawing your boundaries, especially, hard boundaries with Sharpie, not chalk. And if you don't have that ability, you grow up and you get into relationships, and people are coming into your container, your safe space, and a lot of times toxic people, and this stunts your growth. So drawing boundaries, having the ability to do that is everything. So I'm going to go through some quotes. I'm going to go through, just some bullet points of what a healthy boundaries allow you to do and don't do. So let's talk about this. Let me give you a few quotes. One, first. So obviously healthy boundaries are those boundaries that are set to make sure mentally and emotionally that you are stable and safe and thriving and growing. If you don't have the ability to draw these boundaries, then it's going to stunt your mental and emotional capacity, right? So healthy boundaries are a crucial component of self-care. And I think this is something that people don't think about, because when we think about self-care, we think about, massages and retreats and having some non-negotiables and all that, but we don't think about boundaries as self-care. It's kind of the fundamentals of taking care of yourself, right? Protecting yourself. So know that boundaries are a form of self-care, and poor boundaries lead to, and you may be able to relate to this, anger, resentment, and burnout. So healthy boundaries allow you to have high self-esteem and self-respect. Healthy boundaries allow you to protect physically and emotional space from intrusion. Share personal information gradually in a mutual sharing and trusting relationship. So this is interesting. Healthy boundaries actually help you to connect to your partner. So I think a lot of people think boundaries push people away. No, actually healthy boundaries allow you to connect, and it creates new, healthier tracks for you and your partner or your friend, or whatever relationship you're building to go on. So it actually produces glue. It produces a connection. Having an equal partnership where responsibility and power are shared. This is what healthy boundaries produce. Separate your needs, thoughts, feelings, and desires from others. Recognize that your boundaries and needs are different from others. So your boundaries are unique to you, right? And your story and where you're at. Don't compare. Just because someone else has a different opinion on where they would draw their boundary doesn't mean that that's right for you. Okay, unhealthy boundaries are characterized by, and think about this while I'm saying these bullet points. If you can relate to this, unhealthy boundaries are characterized by sharing too much too soon, or at the end of the spectrum, closing yourself off and not expressing your needs and wants. Feeling responsible for others' happiness. This is common, right? This is an unhealthy boundary. So it's not just about sending people to voicemail and only meeting people halfway. A boundary can also be unhealthy if you're feeling responsible for other people's happiness, right? That is a boundary. I know it's a little abstract, but that's so common, you know? Well, also think about like the mother and child or the father and child. Parents and children a lot of times feel very responsible for their child's happiness, and that's actually an unhealthy boundary. Okay, inability to say no, obviously, for fear of rejection or abandonment. This happens a lot in intimate relationships. A lot of people swallowing their truth and not saying no because of fear of rejection, or they're scared that someone's going to leave them, right? This creates unhealthy boundaries. Weak sense of your own identity. You base how you feel about yourself on how others treat you. So if you always have boundaries that are loose and weak, you're always going to lose your sense of self because you're going to be concerned about how you feel about how others treat you. So you're giving others the power, and the relationship will be lopsided. And then disempowerment. You allow others to make decisions for you if you have unhealthy boundaries. Consequently, you feel powerless and do not take responsibility for your own life. And if you don't take responsibility for your own life, then you're not able to build a life, right? Taking responsibility and ownership is not just a one-time thing, it's a practice. So by having weak boundaries, you're preventing your ability to actually take responsibility for your own life. That's really interesting. Okay, I'm going to end with a few quotes. Let me see here. Brene Brown. When we fail to set boundaries and hold people accountable, we feel used and mistreated. This is why we sometimes attack who they are, which is far more hurtful than addressing a behavior or a choice. I love this one because it's so simple. No is a complete sentence. That's Annie Lamott. If you spend your life sharing people's feelings and feeding their vanity, you get so you can't distinguish what should be respected in them. F. Scott Fitzgerald. One more. An intimate relationship is one in which neither party silences, sacrifices, or betrays the self, and each party expresses strength and vulnerability, weakness and competence in a balanced way. That's Harriet Lehner. All right, guys, let's end with just a couple signs that you lack boundaries. Your relationships tend to be dramatic and difficult. Decision making is challenging. You hate letting people down. You have ongoing fear, guilt, or anxiety. You're constantly tired for no reason. I'm always tired for no reason. Actually, I have problems sleeping. You are the victim in most situations, or you see yourself as the victim, right? You're slightly annoyed most of the time. You feel like a doormat. You're passive aggressive. You have to wonder who you are. These are signs that your boundaries are being broken. You justify bad behavior in others. You're always blaming yourself when things go wrong. You feel shame. Real quick, the difference between guilt and shame. Guilt is I did something wrong. Shame is I am wrong, right? Huge difference. You're always doubting your decisions. You sense something is off and your decisions are being disregarded by others. All right, boundaries, a really important topic. Let's work this week on how to draw healthy boundaries. Hopefully the text that I send you will start to stir things up. Think about what comes up and share them with the community.